Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Inept General. Sorry I've been away for a little while, guys, but a couple of days ago we got a Let's Play of a High Elf battle, and I'm a couple of days late, probably the latest I've ever been on a news update, so apologies for that, but I was actually out of the country at the time this came out. But I figured let's have a look at it and go through the video together and see what new things we spot, what new units there are, what new magical effects there are, and we'll just go through it one little bit at a time. So, without further ado, let's kick things off. Okay guys, so here we go, the battle itself. I have just left the original audio in, just running in the background, but I think the map looks great. I think it's a fantastic looking battlefield. And here we have a look at units. Here's the Frostheart.
Highly armored flying unit that causes it.
Let's just pause a little bit there, guys, and let's have a look at some of the Frost Phoenix stats when put against the stats of other sort of big flying beasts. So we have the Sun Dragon, which we saw from our earlier battles, the Battle of the Fallen Gate, which if you haven't seen my Let's Play, my own personal playthrough of that battle in Total War Warhammer 2, do check the top right hand corner now, or the description below for a link to that one. But here we have the stats, how they compare against each other, throwing in a Terrorgeist there. Could have maybe thrown in a Forest Dragon as well, but what the hell, I decided to compare it straight up against the Flamespire Phoenix, which we see the stats of a little bit later in this video. So starting with the Frostheart, 80 armor, that's way more armor than the Sun Dragon, same as a Terrorgeist, and way more than the Flamespire Phoenix as well. Leadership, you're looking at 86, the highest of the bunch of them. Speed, 100, again, quicker, except for the Flamespire Phoenix, which is a little bit quicker than the Frostheart Phoenix, but quicker than the Dragon, just quicker than the Terrorgeist by a bit as well. Melee attack, 35 magical damage. That's pretty good, but Sun Dragon, 40 fire damage, Terrorgeist, 25 poison damage, and the Flamespire, 41 flame and magic damage. So just to have sheer damage output, it looks like the Flamespire Phoenix might be your go-to. Now, melee defense, 50 compared to the Flamespire's 32, so not nearly as hardy as the Frostheart, the Flamespire one. And weapon strength, 360, not as much weapon strength as the Sun Dragon, and a bit more than the Terrorgeist, and more than the Flamespire. The Flamespire also beats the Terrorgeist as well. So it's a pretty respectable amount of weapon strength damage it does. It just doesn't perhaps hit as often as the Flamespire, but when it does hit, it hits a lot harder. Now, charge damage, 40, that's on par with the Terrorgeist, slightly less than the Sun Dragon, and slightly less than the Flamespire. In terms of health, 6,000, that's only beaten by the Terrorgeist. As you can see, the Flamespire, which is the younger of the two types of Phoenix, is a little bit lower on that. If you'd like some lore on the Phoenixes, guys, do check out my High Elf Army video, again popping up in the top right hand corner now, or the description below for a bit of lore on this or any of the other units we see on the High Elf Army in this video. But all in all, it looks like, in terms of usage, the Frostheart Phoenix very much more get in there, do some melee damage, it'll last a little while longer, it will be a bit more hard hitting in terms of when it does hit, it also causes the terror, so that's really where the Frostheart comes in. Now, it also has the effect at the bottom, which I don't think we ever got an opportunity to see what it does. If you see the little icon there with the Frost Phoenix, now, I'm not sure what that does at this stage, but we'll just have to wait and see once we get our hands on it. But that's just something to bear in mind. That might become a game changer in comparing these units against one another. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But that's how I think it plays. Now, my theory on this is that the Frostheart will be your kind of utility Phoenix. But I think the Flamespire Phoenix will do some drastical damage, particularly things that don't have any kind of counterattack to it in terms of missiles, like the Undead. They do have some magic spells that they could use against it, but still, I think a Flamespire Phoenix would do huge amounts of damage to a Vampire Count army. Just because of the flaming damage, the fact that there's no missiles that they can really chase it away with. It can lay down a bombarding attack, which the Frostheart Phoenix I don't believe can. And so that's the key differences here. But let's continue on with the video and see what other new units we see going forward.
Around it, slowing them down and making them weaker.
So that icon on the far right for the Frost Heart, I think, must have been the chilling effect and weakness effect. Here we have the Swordmasters. We've seen the Swordmasters before. Looking good, getting ready for a battle. If you want a comparison on the Swordmasters and some of the units we see before, like the Eagle Bolt Throwers here, do check my previous Lizardmen and High Elf Army stats comparison on the top right hand corner now, or in the description below. And here we go, we've got some Spearmen. I think the shields are looking better, but I think they addressed the aspect of the shields here.
So I wanted to show a snippet of some of the other high elf factions.
They've made improvements to the shield, I think, from the earlier stuff. Tyrion, looking good. I think this is our first view of Tyrion in in-game footage. Now here we have the Lothern Sea Guard, one of the units I've been most looking forward to. So let's do some stat comparisons. Now, I didn't use any other armies to really compare these guys against. One could argue I could have used the Thunderers or the Quarrelers because they technically have shields as well. But I just decided to compare it against the Elven Spearmen and the Elven Archers themselves. Now, we can see they're a smaller unit, more comparable to size of the Archers than the Spearmen 120 unit size. They have more health than the Archers, less health than the Spearmen, but they also have, I'm not sure exactly how that compares against them per unit basis, because there are 120 Spearmen, so it might actually be the same as the Spearmen as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But armor-wise, they have more armor than Spearmen, which maybe means that they can hang in there a little bit longer. They have more leadership, they have the same speed, except the Archers are a little bit quicker. The melee attack, 24 compared to the Spearmen's 22, and the Archers is not really even worth comparing, they're just at 16. And melee defense, 48, slightly lower than the melee defense of the Spearmen, but bear in mind they do have that higher armor value as well, and of course it's a better melee defense than the Archers themselves. Weapon strength, 27, higher than Spearmen. Charge bonus, not really relevant. Ammunition, 22. Compared to the Archers, 24. Range, slightly lower than just your normal Archers for the High Elves. So 165 compared to the 170, but they do higher missile damage. Now, these guys are one of the most kind of tactically exciting units for me in the High Elf army, just in terms of the versatility they can offer in terms of army building and in terms of tactics on the battlefield. But they do have the charge defense, they do have the anti-large. Now, my biggest question about these guys, which I don't think is answered in this battle, as I'm sure many of you have seen it, not to throw in any spoilers early doors, but I don't think it's answered in this battle, is how these guys, how quickly, or if they need some animation set up to prepare for a charge against a defense against the charge, and how that works compared to units just being in proximity or units directly charging them. That will play more into relevance in the multiplayer aspect of this game, but it's still one of my areas of concern about the Lothern Sea Guard unit particularly, just because, like, yes, an AI will charge them and directly charge them, and so if that's what triggers their animation to raise their shields and take up their charge defense, then that will always happen against AI. But human players will know they'll brace themselves if they charge too quickly, and will do the thing where they march just right next to them and then charge in before they have a chance to react without directly charging them from a fair distance away. So that's a bit of give and take there. So that's my biggest question about them so far, but I think they will be a fascinating unit to get a chance to play around with. And yeah, they look great. They're a very interestingly tactical unit. I can't wait to get my hands on them. Alright, so moving on from the Sea Guard.
Back we have the Lothern Sea Guard, a very powerful and flexible unit because they have good armor to protect from missiles, spears to defend against cavalry, and bows to attack at range. Here we have the much younger Flamespire Phoenix, who's
Swordmasters, and the Flamespire, which we covered a little bit earlier when we were looking at the Frost Heart.
And drop fire on enemies below it. Protecting the bird is the Phoenix Guard, a super...
And so here we have one of the most elite infantry units for the High Elves, the Phoenix Guard themselves, who guard the Temple of Asuryan. Now, the Phoenix Guard should be, in lore, one of the strongest sort of halberd units that are around. So let's compare them to some of their counterparts. So we have here the halberdiers next to them are the Empire, then the Chosen, Chaos Warriors, and the Lizardmen Temple Guard on the far right hand side. So looking at armor, 100 versus 30 versus the 30 of the Empire. So they'll easily much more armor than your casual Empire halberdiers. Chosen, 120. Warriors, Chaos Warriors, 100, matching the Chaos Warriors. Now leadership, highest of all of them, even higher than the Temple Guard of the Lizardmen. Speed, highest of all of them, even just beating the Lizardmen by a point. Melee attack, 32. Trounces the Empire, as one might expect. A little bit less than the Chosen, a little bit more than Chaos Warriors, and it's the same as, I believe, the Temple Guard. Now, melee defense, 45. Again, beats the Empire, less than the Chosen, more than Chaos Warriors, and more than Temple Guard as well. Weapon strength, 35. Beats Empire, less than Chosen, more than Chaos Warriors, less than Temple Guard this time round. And charge bonus, not really relevant for sort of halberdier or spear units. But that's them. They get the anti-large. Oh, but they do have something we've not seen for a while here, guys. We've not seen since it was a bit of an OP ability for the Bretonnian armies before they got built out properly. But charge defense against all. Now, that could be very important. That's not just large foes. That's charge defense against anyone charging them. And that's a fantastic little bonus to give to the Phoenix Guard, I think. Also, anti-large, armor piercing, armored. Now, they don't have shields like the Temple Guard, but they do the armor piercing and anti-large damage that one might expect. Now, in the bottom row here of their traits, we can see they cause fear, which will be an added bonus. They also will, I think the far right is some form of the ability they've spoken about before in Creative Assembly called Martial Prowess. And I think that's some kind of maybe special Phoenix Guard version that they have. Not 100% sure. I think that might be the ability they have with their shield around them here. You see them, they have this kind of bluish tinted shield. Now, how I feel about them having a force field around them, I'm not 100% sure, a visible force field. I'm in slightly two minds about it. I mean, it looks kind of cool, but I have my doubts. I'm speculative about it, but we'll see how it looks in the game itself when we get our hands on it. And the white icon there, I'm not 100% sure what that is. The Dragon Princes have that as well. I speculated for the Dragon Princes it might be some kind of ward or some kind of physical resistance. But I think the Phoenix Guard ward may be the one on the far right there. But we'll have to wait and see on that. I'm not 100% sure, guys. But they will have some kind of added magical protection, I'm assuming, with that shield effect around them. Now, the strength of that will really play into how they compare against each other, these units. But I think these may be, perhaps, if it plays out the way I imagine, they may be the best kind of hold your line halberdier unit, or even the best hold your line unit in the game, as long as they're not peppered with too many missiles. I think that'll be the Phoenix Guard's sort of major downfall, perhaps, is they might have that halberd vulnerability to missiles. But apart from that, I think they will be very solid. So really looking forward to getting our hands on them. Of course, they do outnumber the Chosen. So the Chosen, stat-wise, are better, and they have more hit points than the Phoenix Guard, who actually have the least amount of hit points of any of these units, which is interesting. But I think that magical ward save, or whatever it turns out being, will really play a vital part into how strong this unit actually is, and maybe disguises the their ability in the stats. So don't take the stats for rote on this one. I think there's a lot more that will surprise us about the Phoenix Guard to come actually in a battle scenario. But that's how they stack up, guys. Let's continue on.
Powerful halberd infantry unit that is absolutely devastating to any large foe they encounter. And lastly, onto my favorite high elf unit, the Dragon Princes. These are the highest tier of cavalry available. The entitled princes wear dragon armor.
Now, next up in terms of the unique units we haven't seen before is the Dragon Princes. So let's pause a little bit and have a little comparison of the Dragon Princes against some of their peers in other armies. So we've got their armor, 100, a little bit less than the Blood Knights, a little bit less than Chaos Knights as well, and less than the Reichsguard. Leadership, 89, highest of all of them. Speed, 74, highest of all of them. Melee attack, 39. Better than the Blood Knights, not as good as the Chaos Knights, better than the Reichsguard. Melee defense, 36, not as good as the Blood Knights, not as good as the Chaos Knights, better than the Reichsguard, as one might expect. Weapon strength, 44. Now, this is where they might come into their own a little bit. That's better than the Blood Knights, that's better than the Chaos Knights, and that's better than the Reiksguard. Now the difference is there's no armor piercing or anti-large bonuses here for the Dragon Princes, so one maybe has to take that into account, but just pure damage output, there's a lot of potential there for them. And charge bonus 80, that is the highest of all of these cavalry units. So that's a huge amount of charge bonus for the Dragon Prince cavalry. Now, the other icon that we're kind of curious about, if we look at the very bottom of the Dragon Prince information card there, guys, the second one on the right, the orange shield, that's fire resistance. Now, I'm not sure what the one on the left is. I think we encountered it when we saw the Phoenix Guard as well. Now, I suspect that's going to be a ward save of some kind. So that might also play a significant part. I mean, particularly when you're looking at something like their maybe less than average armor and their melee defense perhaps not being the highest. I think this ward save might play into that and balance it out, putting them maybe on top of these guys in terms of damage, but I'm not 100% sure that is a ward save. That's just my theory at the moment. And they also seem to benefit. I think that one on the far right is martial prowess, which all the Elven units seem to be getting at this stage. So that's them going forward. They look like they could go head to head with most of these other heavy-hitting cavalry knights. We'll have to do some unit testing when the game comes out to see exactly how they stack up, but they look like they can at least hold their own, so looking like a very respectable heavy cav elite cavalry unit there from the Dragon Princes.
Protecting them against any fire attacks and just making them look badass, obviously. Alright, so I think we're just about ready to start the battle. If we turn back on the UI, you can see all of the lovely units at my disposal. We have a fairly diverse army, also carrying a High Elf Mage and a Lore Master of Hoeth, who have some powerful magic at their disposal. Now before we start, I'm just going to turn on guard mode for some of my spearmen here, and make sure skirmish...
I like some of these unit cards here. They look great, actually. I like the Phoenix ones in particular. I think they're good-looking icon cards. I'm still not sure. I'm not sure if I like how Tyrion looks. That's just my personal, idea. I mean, he looks fairly... I think it's the blue, it's the red and whites mixed with the blue. I think it's throwing me off a little bit. I think in models, maybe I'm just remembering it wrongly, but in models I always thought he was sort of like one sort of overall bluish with maybe some gold thrown in, rather than any kind of red and white there, sorry. Edit out.
Alright, I think we've waited long enough. Let's begin the battle. I
think the White Lions icon card also looks pretty badass there.
Could do with having some protection from the front, so we'll shift our spearmen in front of them and fill the gap with the Phoenix Guard. Today it's Lord Mazda Monday.
And here we have the Croxigors, guys. They look pretty great, keeping their sort of crocodilian aspects and features. And it actually answers one of these sort of longer sort of going questions of whether we would get kind of mixed Croxigor units. But as we kind of guessed early on, they're going to be more, it looks like they're going to be more like trolls. Because on the tabletop you could have skinks mixed in with Croxigors and they'd get bonuses because they actually come out of the same spawning pools. So they're kind of meant to be like partnered from birth, but it looks like they're just going to be a separate unit. But I'm actually fine with that. That's kind of what I guess they do, so that's actually alright by me. We have our first look at the Horned Ones, the most elite Lizardmen cavalry going here. They look pretty good. We've had screenshots of them in the past, though. We still haven't had a look at their stats, but we'll have to wait for that. Neither have we had a chance to see the Croxigor stats at present.
Such arrogance. I love it.
I do like the Dragon Prince's marching. He does comment on it in the video, but it looks pretty good.
Oh, that horn means they're in range. Nice. Here we go. Now the anti-infantry shot isn't going to do much against the Horned Ones, but it might push them out of the forest. Our cavalry is pushing up to meet the threat, though the Silver Helms...
Now we've seen Silver Helms before, that's what's over there, and the Illyrian Reavers. Not the bow variety though yet.
In front of the artillery. Now it's worth mentioning also that I'll be cutting between the raw gameplay footage and the replay gameplay footage, so you can get both a zoomed out tactical look at the battle and a close-up cinematic look at the units. And I'll try to be quiet so you can soak in the atmosphere during these moments too.
Now here we have Mazdamundi on Zlak, looking pretty amazing. I like the sort of the bobbing sticks at the back.
So as
I think that's a great little effect on the animation.
At the first sign of damage, he has cast.
Here we have the multiple shot. We've seen Apotheosis before. If you guys want to have a better idea of Mazdamundi's skills, do check out the Mazdamundi skill tree video I put out. Again, top right hand corner or down in the description below. There goes the Frostheart with his chilling effect.
Dragon Princes are about to engage some Cold One Riders now. This should be an easy fight.
Now it looks like maybe the Frostheart should have gone in against the Cold Horned ones and helped out the Silver Helms here. But that's not great. Neither one of those guys would be getting a great charge off by charging Cavalry and Woodland. You got the Pterodons going over. Now I'm curious as to how much friendly damage they can do. I've had a chance to actually get hands-on with the Pterodons, with the Fireballers, which were essentially the flying pterodactyls you saw there. Now they seem to be not the most accurate of weapons, and they do splash damage. So I'm a little bit concerned about how much friendly fire you can actually do to yourself there. And here's our first look at Chameleon Skinks here, guys, on the left. Very exciting unit. They will probably have Stalk on the battlefield. It should be very hard to detect and very easy to sort of move around undetected, hopefully, in Total War Warhammer 2.
That big blue shield over to the left is buffing their
now, shield of the old ones here, you'll see in the middle, is a 44% resistance. It's the blue bubble. Now, at the moment, that's just a leadership buff, but I think what that will end up doing... Oh, Croxigors! Looking great. Feral Carnosaur charging about. Anyway, what I was saying about that is I think that might become more helpful against something like Skaven, which have the potential to deal quite a lot of magical-based damage, rather than just necessarily protection against spells, which of course it would be. We're seeing some of the magic of the High Elves here on the bottom right-hand corner. This is fiery. We've seen this spell before in the Battle of the Fallen Gates. It still looks good.
So we're gonna have to move our Phoenix.
Fiery Convocation, yeah.
Oh, just missed the Croxigors, but it did some good damage even so.
And here comes more Pterodon Riders bombing in. Again, probably a great unit to have against something like the
Right,
Undead.
let's turn up the heat. There's a big group here, so we're going to throw
They
down
can go rampaging around the Vampire Coast.
Guard your ears. Oh yeah, now this is actually great at ensnaring flying units, but it does decent damage on the ground too.
See, now that sounds interesting, a spell that can actually ensnare flying units. Now I think if I remember Tempest on the tabletop, maybe... If it's a spell I'm thinking of, now I'm not 100% sure on this, guys, I haven't looked this one up just to double check. But I think it was maybe a spell that grounded flying units, so it's interesting that it's a spell that can ensnare flying units in Total War Warhammer 2. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't take me verbatim on that one, guys. Not 100%.
It's not going to be a good day for that guy.
Nice. The Pterodons just having their fun.
Alright, it's tag team Phoenix time. Father and son, fire and ice.
Whatever, I'll let that one go. That's a weird line in it. There's Tyrion doing some damage. We didn't really get a good idea, but there's not a lot of they haven't displayed the health bars, so we're not sure who's doing like huge amounts of damage to what. But this looks like a fantastic bombardment spell that the Flamespire Phoenix can do, and a very handy one at that.
Taking quite a bit of damage, but we'll send them back into this chunk of units here and make another pass with the Flamespire Phoenix.
And it looks very much like it works with the gyro bombers. But I think what this one does is there's no cooldown time, if I remember them talking through the roster correctly. So you can just click that over again. And as you can see, there's a good number of uses. He went from 7 to 2 there. So he dropped 5 very rapidly in a row there, because there's no cooldown on how quickly you can tap that button. Now obviously there is some cooldown on how quickly the animation fires off, but that's about it. So it could be, if you get the right clump of enemy units and use that properly, it can be hugely devastating.
As it buffs reload and melee attacks, so these guys will be ready for anything.
Now that's interesting that there's an ability that really is just sort of home built for them.
And let's buff our winds of magic to empower our phoenixes again.
Again, we haven't seen these guys launch into being charged or anything like that, so there's a lot of unanswered questions about the Sea Guard. I have at the moment.
That's so
but they
annoying.
seem to be
Master
like
Monday is called
pretty
banishment
decent
again,
archers.
which
They're
means
getting
I'll
the
have to
job
move my
done.
archers, effectively disrupting my buff.
That's one of Mazdamundi's, I think, banishment.
I think we've got him now, though. Battle is turning in my favor.
I think they've nailed him down most of almost everything. The Phoenix Guard have been there busying away on Mazdamundi and Zlak. But against two Phoenixes, the Phoenix Guard, I'm sure Tyrion's probably in there somewhere. But look, these Croxagores. I think the Croxagores look great. I think that's the best bit of this whole video. We've seen Croxagores, and I'm very happy. Now, some people might argue against the red and yellow face paint on them, but I think that's maybe to help you distinguish them from a distance, from maybe the Saurus or something like that. It just helps them stand out a little bit. And I think, you know what, I think it's fine.
Make sure that we keep them routing and don't let them come back.
Little hopping chicken bird there going after him. Go get him, Phoenix.
Alright, I think that's it. We've just about won. Mazdamundi is going to run.
Alright guys, that about sums it up. I think that was a great battle. It was great to see the Chameleon Skinks. I think the Chameleon Skinks have really been done justice. And I think the Croxagores have been done justice. I like the Dragon Princes. I like the look of them. The Phoenixes look pretty good. Now on kind of a final point here, guys. We have had some other news. We've been going through the rituals. And if you want me to do a separate video on that, let me know in the comments. But so far, Creative Assembly have been launching a series of rituals that have been giving us prizes, mainly of Skaven concept art at this point. We've had this, I think we've had several of them, but here are just a couple for examples. And it's Skaven at this point. It's just silly that they haven't announced it. I think they're waiting for a little bit to announce it. It may be around their sort of 20th Total War anniversary or something like that. I think it's coming up. So it may be around that, but I'm not 100% sure. That's when I'm guessing they're going to make the official Skaven announcement, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's something that's going on. If you'd like me to do a full video on the ritual, I was thinking about maybe waiting to the end and just talk through it with any of you guys who haven't had all the answers yet or haven't had a chance to access all of the concept art that they've released. But apart from that, guys, sorry I've been slightly absent. A lot of guys have been asking me about lore videos. There will be a lore video. I'm going to record it later on today. So in the next 2 or 3 days, I'll be releasing another lore video for you guys to enjoy. Sorry I've been falling behind, but really no real excuse, not being demotivation or anything. It's been summertime. I've been spending more time outside to the detriment of my health, more time in the pub. You know, I live in the UK. We don't get that much sunshine. When we do, we like to get out and enjoy it. So apologies for not posting as regularly as I have done previously. But hopefully I'm going to get a few more lore videos out in the next couple of weeks or so. Maybe get 3 or 4 out in the next 7 to 10 days. So we'll have to wait and see on that one, guys. But thanks for sticking with me. I hope you guys enjoyed my little run through of this battle. It was a fun one to watch. There may be another news update later today because I think we are going to get the Dark Elf cinematic trailer reveal. So maybe look out for an additional video from me later on today on that one, and maybe the lore one this evening or perhaps at some point tomorrow. But other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to catching up with you all at some point in the near future. Quick thank you to all my patrons, Reese, Colin, Thomas, Mateus, Samuel, Matthews, David, the Scion of the Empire, and Niblets. Thanks, guys, for supporting me on Patreon, and hope to catch you all soon.